In the UK, the smallest mobile networks on the market almost always offer the cheapest prices. But what's the catch? When they lease network access from the Big Four, are these smaller networks being given second-class service? Today, we've tested the MVNOs against their parent network to see if their speeds are being throttled. But before we begin, if you're looking for a new smartphone or SIM-only plan, click the link in the description to greensmartphones.com to find the cheapest deals on the market at the moment. Just click on a phone you want to buy, or click SIM-only up here, and you'll be able to find the cheapest prices on the market, no matter how much data you need and what network you want to use. So for those that don't know, there are 4 mobile networks in the UK that have their own infrastructure: 3, EE, Vodafone and O2, although 3 and Vodafone will merge soon, so by the end of this year, it'll probably just be the 3 main networks. All of these other companies lease network access from one of the Big Four. For example, Smarty and ID Mobile both use 3, Lebara uses Vodafone, and Tesco Mobile uses O2. These smaller networks, also known as Mobile Virtual Network Operators, or MVNOs for short, are almost always the cheapest option, especially if you want a data-only SIM. For example, if we look at the cheapest SIM-only deals on the market at the moment, ID Mobile has the cheapest plans, thanks to this cashback they're offering. So because they're cheaper, a lot of people are under the assumption that these smaller networks get deprioritized or just second-class service, compared to people using the same network just directly with the bigger provider, which does sort of make sense, because the profit margin on this data has to come from somewhere. But we've never seen any strong evidence of this on a consistent basis, and we think the way most small networks make their money is by buying data in bulk at a much cheaper rate than what the consumer pays with 3 or Vodafone, for example, allowing the MVNO to get data for a lower price by giving the parent network more certainty in the amount of data they'll sell. So we wanted to test this, and that's what we've done. The first thing we did was pit 3 against Smarty. These are both pretty popular networks, especially for people prioritizing 5G speeds. So we got 2 5G compatible phones, put the SIMs in, restarted both devices, and then ran speed tests at the same time. And the results were pretty shocking. Smarty pretty consistently outperformed 3 in terms of download speeds on these tests, although weirdly, 3's ping and upload speeds were normally a bit better. We thought, based on these speed tests, there must be something wrong with the phone with the 3 SIM in it, even though it's a brand new Pixel 9 with no issues. So we tried the tests with the 3 SIM in the other phone, and 3's performance did improve, but it was still in that range of about 40 to 80 megabits that we're getting with Smarty in this area with this phone. The upload speeds did improve a bit, but we just think this was because there was a bit of a delay getting the Smarty SIM out of the phone, putting the 3 SIM in, and then restarting it. So what do we make of this? In this area, on 5G, we think Smarty is receiving basically no throttling from 3, and probably none at all. It's essentially the exact same service, under normal conditions at least. But this comparison might not be perfect, as a way to compare general MVNO and Big Four network performance. The problem is, rather than just selling data to Smarty, 3 actually owns the company, meaning they might give them a better deal compared to other MVNOs on the 3 network. So we wanted to do another test. This time we compared Vodafone with Lebara. Lebara is a small SIM-only provider which isn't owned by Vodafone. So this relationship between the 2 companies should be more independent and should give a better idea in general of MVNO versus Big Four performance. And from the speed tests, the results were quite different to our last experiment. As you can see here, we're set up with the 2 phones in the same location, doing speed tests at the exact same time in an area with better Vodafone signal than our 3 5G signal was before. And in these tests, Vodafone consistently outperformed. There was one speed test where Vodafone was only a little bit better and had a worse upload speed, but in general, their download speeds were typically about 50 to 100 megabits faster, and their upload speeds were normally a bit better as well, although the difference wasn't huge, and sometimes Vodafone's upload would be a bit lower than with Lebara. And we then tried these tests using both SIMs in the same phone, one after the other, and the results were pretty similar. So we think, on a Lebara SIM, you're not quite getting the same speeds as someone with a direct SIM from Vodafone in the same area. It's about 15 to 20% worse on average, although this does vary over time, and it might not be the case throughout the whole country. So what does this mean when buying a SIM or a pay monthly phone plan? We still think MVNOs are definitely worth considering. Thanks to the value for money that they offer, your speeds and signal might be slightly worse than if you bought from the parent network directly, but in return, you'll probably save a huge amount of money, and you shouldn't have any problems getting online or making or receiving calls, as long as you have good signal, which is why, before buying a deal on greensmartphones.com, it's a good idea to click more details here, then come down to the coverage map and put in your postcode to see how a given network performs before you buy from them. And there's one other thing to keep in mind. If you're considering an MVNO, it might be worth paying a bit more to use one that's owned by the parent company, because from the limited testing we've done, this can potentially mean you'll be more likely to get full access to the parent network. So that means if you want to use 3, we'd lean towards Smarty. If you prefer Vodafone, we'd lean towards Voxy, which they own. And if you want to use O2, we'd lean towards giffgaff. Currently, EE doesn't own any MVNOs at the moment. And remember, if you're looking for a smartphone or SIM-only plan, click the link in the description to greensmartphones.com and use the search bar up here to find the phone or SIM plan you want to buy and compare the cheapest prices on the market. And if you have any questions about choosing a mobile network, leave us a comment below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.